Okay, so the 2020 iPhone SE has been out for quite some time now. I've had it since its release back in April, so for about 4 months. Now, it's an amazing phone, but there are some flaws. Well, not really flaws, but Apple had to make some compromises to give the iPhone SE its $399 price tag. Now, I'm going to dive into the details of the iPhone SE and really see if it's worth $400. I've made a bunch of videos of the iPhone SE as well as a review on the channel, but this is more so a is it really worth it 4 months later type of video. The real question is, how good is the 2020 iPhone SE, well, in 2020? But before I do begin, I'd really appreciate if you can give this video a thumbs up and turn on the bell notifications, as it does help out the YouTube algorithm and pushes my content to more people. Anyway, everybody, let's dive right in. While many companies are pretty much cutting back on some of their features in mid-range devices to bring down costs, Apple is literally just giving you a recycled design, but with the latest and greatest chipset. Other companies tend to give us an older or less powerful chipset like a Snapdragon 700 or even 600 series, while Apple is just giving us the latest A13 Bionic processor, just like the ones found in the 11 series. Apple is giving the users 3 great things in this package: the latest processor, amazing software, and an Apple standard well-performing camera. This is Apple's take on the mid-range segment. Now, anybody who is looking to enter the Apple ecosystem and is on a budget, this would be my first recommendation to them. In fact, let me dive into each part of the device, from design to performance to camera and to battery life and all those good things. Design. The iPhone SE design is what we have come to know and love. Well, do we really love it? That depends on the person, but for me, it doesn't really annoy me too much. We still have wireless charging, first found on the iPhone 8, which still comes in clutch when you really need it. Many mid-range devices tend to leave out wireless charging, so it's awesome to see Apple included this feature. Now, the iPhone SE also moved the Apple logo to the middle of the phone, just like the 11 and 11 Pro, which I actually prefer. The SE has a single lens camera, and teardowns of this device show that it is the same lens of the iPhone 8. The software is what helps the iPhone SE shoot better photos than the iPhone 8. Everything about this iPhone is just so 2014. No bezel-less display, no notch, and no pop-up camera. None of that stuff. There's no headphone jack, which I'm pretty sure many of us got used to by now, and we continue to get the Lightning connector. I am hoping that one day Apple does make the switch to USB-C. We got the huge top and bottom bezels, where we also do have Touch ID over Face ID like the iPhone 11 series, and to be honest, I really do enjoy using Touch ID. This design is from 6-7 years ago, and while it doesn't scream premium, it still feels like a premium device. I'm sure that anybody who is looking to pick up the iPhone SE isn't necessarily going for the design, but for the form factor and its price. Only Apple could pull this off by releasing a recycled design with updated specs. I personally would love to see something like an HTC One M7 with 2020 specs for $400. Would it sell as good as the iPhone SE? Definitely not, but one can only imagine. I get it. It doesn't meet 2020 standards, let alone even 2016 standards, but this design really doesn't bother me anymore. Oh, one more thing. This phone supports dual SIMs, which means if you use more than one SIM, this device is perfect for that. Software. The iPhone SE runs the latest software, iOS 13, but I currently have the iOS 14 developer beta running, and I gotta say, iOS 14 is pretty dope. I also did make a bunch of videos of the iOS 14 developer beta, so if you haven't seen those, I'll leave some links in the description down below. The one thing I love about iPhones is that they tend to receive 4 to 5 years of software updates. This really pushes users to hold on to their phones even longer. And since it's Apple's own chipset, own product, and own software, they have the advantage, and they can even optimize their newer software for older devices. You look at nowadays and people are holding on to their phones even longer than ever. Companies that push out $1,000 phones like the newly unveiled Galaxy Note 20, which is asking for $999, and the Galaxy Note 20 Ultra, which is asking for $1,300, you can't even guarantee 2 to 3 years of software updates. Whereas the $400 iPhone SE, receives up to 5 years of software updates. Granted, Android is a whole different story, and there are a lot of components when bringing software updates to Android devices, but just knowing that your iPhone will be up to date just really eases things. Even the original 2016 iPhone SE that looks like the iPhone 5S was updated to iOS 13. What I did notice though is that this phone is buttery smooth. The A13 Bionic chipset paired with the efficiency of iOS 14 really works well. There are some features that I've been really enjoying a lot, like AirDrop with my MacBook, and yes, iMessage too. AirDrop has become super useful for me, especially for the channel. I typically edit my photos and thumbnails with my phone and later send it to my MacBook Pro. Using an Android phone, I would have to plug in my phone and copy and paste the image, which isn't hard, or I can just use Google Photos, whatever it is, but it just takes an extra minute or two. Using AirDrop really saves that time because in the end, that time does add up. Forget the time, it's just super convenient to click send to the MacBook, so when I open my MacBook, I know that the image will be there. Also, one thing I do notice is that developers tend to release their apps first on iOS as well as updates to their apps, which I personally appreciate. And I've gone a little deeper, and I did actually ask a couple developers online and people that I know, and yes, that's a fact. People tend to release their apps on iOS first and then port them over to Android. Camera. The iPhone SE has one single rear camera just like the Google Pixel 4a, coming in at 12 megapixels, which is the same module found on the iPhone 8. However, thanks to that A13 Bionic chip, it really does improve the software side of things. Daylight photos are super good. The main sensor pushes out photos you can actually use. Sometimes you hear people say that Android phones take awesome photos, but iPhone takes better photos, in my opinion, for social media. Now, there is a night mode on the iPhone SE, and while it's not the biggest deal breaker, it does get you looking at other phones at the same price tag with features like night mode. Both the Pixel 4a and the OnePlus Nord have night sight. Well, OnePlus calls it nightscape. Like I said, it's not really a huge deal breaker for me, but it's always nice to know that your device does have these extra features. Honestly, anybody who is looking to purchase this phone isn't probably going to buy it based on its performance. It may not have those extra features, but it won't let you down. There is portrait mode, but this only works with humans, not objects or pets like the iPhone 11 series does. When it comes to video, the iPhone SE is the obvious winner in the mid-rate segment, and you know what I mean if you have used an iPhone before. You won't get extra features for the camera like a dedicated telephoto lens or an ultra-wide, but this camera does the job. Quality is what really matters for me, and the iPhone's video just looks super crispy. If you're looking to use this iPhone SE for YouTube, vlogging, social media, or anything photo or video related, this is a perfect choice. In fact, I'll go ahead and drop a couple photos I took with the iPhone SE, and I'll let you be the judge. With camera photos, everybody has their own opinion, which is totally fine, but I do know that these photos are ones I can count on. Okay, so you guys saw the photos. This is a video test of the front-facing camera on the iPhone SE. Now, when it comes to photos, we got the Pixel 4a newly announced. We got the iPhone SE, what I'm using right now, and we have something like the OnePlus Nord. They take really good photos, but when it comes to video, that's where things get a little bit different. And my personal recommendation, and a lot of people, they're the same too, if you're going to shoot video, then probably go with the iPhone. And if you're on a budget, iPhone SE is definitely the choice. Battery life. Being inside throughout the duration of testing the iPhone SE since its release in April, so about 4 months, it's been quite tough, but from how I've been using it, the phone lasts me if I just respond to emails, text, browse the web, or use it for social media, and that's typically what I use it for. And actually, Like, yeah, that's literally what I use it for. I have YouTube installed, but I don't really use it. Sometimes I do, and once I start to watch YouTube videos or play some games, then I notice the battery begins to deplete much quicker. The iPhone SE has a battery capacity of 1821 milliamp hours. Now, I gotta give credit to Apple for one thing though, and that is the standby time. Apple has been very good with this, not just on the iPhone SE, but all over their iPhones. The iPhone SE will not drain a single percent when not in use. You can wake up in the morning with the same percentage you went to sleep with. Other phones, I typically lose about 2 to 5%, and over time that does add up. I see it all the time with my OnePlus 7 Pro. It's a good thing this phone does have fast charging and supports 18 watts, although you'll need to buy that adapter separately. It also supports wireless charging, like I said in the very beginning, which is even becoming more common nowadays, especially in the mid-range segment. And I really do miss this feature because it's not on my OnePlus 7 Pro, which is considered a flagship device of 2019. So for an average consumer, this phone's battery should be fine. However, if you're consistently on your phone, like myself, get ready to charge your phone or carry around a portable charger. Don't get me wrong, I don't use this iPhone as my main daily driver to get all my personal and business needs and wants done, so I don't really deplete the battery as quick as I would if I were using it as my main daily driver. If you have or have had an iPhone 8, expect it to perform about the same based on your usage. I'll have to conclude that battery life is probably the worst aspect of the phone. I mean, 1821 milliamp hours in 2020. Okay. Oh well. Price. $399 for 64 gigs. $449 for 128 gigs. $549 for 256 gigs. I think the 128 gigs for $449 is the sweet spot. I have the 64 gigs for $400, but that's just like my thought. Android has a lot of competition right now. Pixel 4a and OnePlus Nord are the main devices that really stand out and are worth it for what you pay for. For $399, this is the ideal iPhone to enter the Apple ecosystem. Yeah, you can find an older device like an iPhone XR or maybe an iPhone X or an iPhone 8, maybe for around the same price or even lower. Keep in mind, though, how old those devices are. The iPhone SE might be an older design, but I know that only Apple could pull that off by selling a phone with recycled parts. I can say that this checks almost, if not all the essentials for $400. It's got a very solid camera, it has amazing speed and performance for an iPhone, it has fast and wireless charging, it will receive 4 to 5 years of software updates. Even if you drop $400 for this iPhone SE, you know what you're buying pretty much. Pricing with Apple rarely changes. You probably won't see the retail price drop anytime soon. Maybe during holidays or events, carriers might throw in a couple sweet deals to lower the cost, but that's about it. My final thoughts. Back in my 1 month later review, I said that Apple has done it again. A lot of people have been waiting for a refresh of the original 2016 iPhone SE, and they brought it again. You know, we're continuing to see prices in phones increase rapidly, and the average consumer is only looking for a phone that can get them throughout the day without dropping a massive amount of money. The iPhone SE comes in at $400 for 64 gigs for its starting price, and will provide that 4 to 5 years of software updates. It's a device where you know what you're getting yourself into. It's an iPhone. Back when this device first released, Apple didn't have too much competition. Now, Apple has to go against the recently announced OnePlus Nord and Pixel 4a, which both stand their ground as worthy opponents in the mid-range segment. I'll keep saying it. Cheap phones are getting really good, and these phones prove just that. It's a fact. Does the average consumer really need a $1,500 phone when a phone that costs only $400 gets the same exact job done? Absolutely not. Not everybody needs the latest and greatest. Some people are just looking for a smartphone that will answer phone calls, text, browse the web, and reply to emails. It's perfectly fine if you disagree with me. I myself would personally rock this device as my daily if reviewing devices was not a part of what I do. Yes, since I review devices, I frequently have to change up what device I use as my daily, although actually my daily is the OnePlus 7 Pro because I personally enjoy it. But I'm always testing devices, so I can't really rock this iPhone SE as my personal daily driver. Maybe the iPhone 12 Pro Max, which hopefully comes out. The iPhone SE will continue to perform and sell very well even after the iPhone 12 series does come out, like I said, which is now expected to release in October. Now remember, not every phone is perfect, but for what you're getting, the iPhone SE is a solid package. Many people are eager to try an iPhone and the Apple ecosystem, and this device is probably the best way to do so. You may disagree with me on this one, and that is perfectly fine, but I have really enjoyed using the iPhone as my daily iPhone driver. Anyway, everybody, I hope you guys did enjoy this video. If you did, be sure to superman that like button, comment down below, because with the more interactions we get on this video, not only helps the video and the channel, but also pushes the video out to more viewers. And best of all, superman that subscribe button. Until next time, everybody, and until next video, this is MTG.